flag fly. Versus on the other end, you have the veterans, the few. You have a show that has just had it surprises me, almost 20-year record of just consistently saying really, really outlandish things. But that's the thing. You have experience versus a newcomer, and that's what we're looking down here. Is it the flash of the newcomer versus the experience of the ladies who just don't know when to shut up?
Well, here's the thing about the ladies that don't know when to shut up. It's an ever-evolving lineup. It's not the same 4 or 5 people for the 20 years. They bring them in and out. They have different leadership, different roles, different personalities.
It's been a tough year for them.
All buffoons.
It's been a tough year for them. Because they haven't been able to find their footing. But in any other media organization, that would be a negative. But here in the Buffoonological Institute, the fact that you can't tell your ass from a hole in the ground only gets your score higher.
So there you go. There's matchup number 1. Tough to top that matchup. But then we have the other half of the bracket, and this is all about presidential debates and presidential politics, folks. We have the CNBC debate moderators, John Harwood, Quintanilla, whatever his name was, and the other one, the woman. No offense to the woman, but I just don't know your name. Versus Megyn Kelly? Matt, did we lose our senses here?
I look at this, of all the matchups we're going to talk about here, I kind of look at this as the biggest mismatch on the board. Megyn Kelly, a lot of people took offense to the way she treated Donald Trump during the Fox debate. I wasn't one of them. I thought she was asking a fair question, but she got a groundswell of popular support for her buffoonery from the masses, and that's something you got to respect. You got to respect the voice of the masses. And while I don't necessarily see it, hey, I'm a man of the people. But on the other end, you have the debate moderators from CNBC. And anyone who watched that debate knows that was pretty much the ad for don't do this. That debate was a train wreck, the flames so high that it shouts as a signal to others, do not do this.
So is this once again a case of not so much buffoonish on the scale, but the actions are high up there in measuring the in terms of sharpness?
This is going to be, where you think, the day before, how many sharpens each one gets, how many giga sharpens, how many mega sharpens you think each one gets. I know what my position is. The debate moderators at CNBC were about as organized as an Italian parliament. Not something you see running well very often. But Megyn Kelly...
An Italian parliament or an Irish pub, whatever you want to pick there, racist.
Yeah, I was trying to, be nice about that because, I'm part Irish. So, who's Italian that I could offend on this radio show?
Gee, I don't know. Maybe just every host here. Okay, so now listen.
This is a bit of a mismatch in my opinion, but you never know. That's why you set the bracket. The upsets can happen. Listen,
there was an outcry about many things that Megyn Kelly has said, not just her debate handling, but in other shows as well. She offended a lot of social conservatives. We're getting comments in the chat room right now saying that Megyn Kelly has no business on this bracket, and it's like a 1 seed versus a 16 seed, basically. Who is the number 1 seed in this bracket, Matt, and why?
The CNBC moderators. You cannot overestimate the amount of a train wreck that debate was. They set back the Republic by about 40 years with what they tried to do to American politics that night.
All right, so there you have it. The first bracket in the 2015 Buffoon of the Year. Let's move on to bracket B. Oh, this is just so great. This is one of my favorite brackets because this is the high power bracket. This is the biggest deal. Dare I say, it's huge, folks. The 2016 presidential candidate Buffoon bracket. We're breaking it up by party, folks. 1 Republican, 1 Democrat. On the Democrat side, obviously no-brainer. Hillary Clinton versus Bernie Sanders. What can be said here, Matt, that hasn't already been said on this show?
That's the problem with breaking down these brackets. So much has been said. I would like to say that, the hardest probably omission here for any candidate, at least on the Democratic side, was Jim Webb. No one has run a more bizarre campaign for president in modern memory than Stu Webb ran for the Democratic nomination. I don't think he even realized he was running. I don't think he even realized he was in the debates. But he was edged out by someone who was actually willing to say, hey, guess what? I'm a socialist.
And that's probably the best part of it.
That is buffoonery.
And, I got to say, I did consider Lincoln Chafee. I think a lot of us did. Because you want to talk about who am I, why am I here?
Yeah. Yeah, the Democrats gave us a lot of options, but, there's two strong candidates here. Hillary's record speaks for itself. It speaks for itself. Bernie Sanders' record is not as well known. He hasn't been on the scene for as long, At 70-something years old, he's the spunky newcomer, wandering forward on his walker. But we have a great people here with a lot of baggage, and it's really going to be fun to see how that one plays out. But it's really the other side of the bracket that's just really exciting.
Oh, yeah, the other side of the bracket, like I said, is huge. The Donald versus the Doctor. Donald Trump versus Dr. Ben Carson. Again, a controversial matchup coming to us from the conservative wing, quote-unquote, of the party, the outsider wing. Both have said and done some pretty buffoonish things. I think you would agree with that, right, Matt?
Buffoonish? I considered making Donald Trump the co-100 on the Sharpton scale. That's how buffoonish Donald Trump has been this year. The things he has said, the fact that he lives in a reality that doesn't exist beyond his own brain. It's outlandish the way that he's able to keep saying these things and saying these things and saying these things. But he doesn't have the track record of multi-decade buffoonery that the good Reverend has. So, obviously, that means something. But this year, man, this is a strong, strong year. If I had to rate a number one seed for everyone we're going to talk about tonight, my number would be on Donald. But Ben Carson's giving him a run for his money.
And you know what? It's garnering a lot of reaction from the chat room right now. One member of our chat saying Carson upsets Trump. People are saying don't hate on the Donald. There are people out there who are loyalists who may show up and vote and skew the science.
Listen, I'm not saying that the good doctor can't pull the upset here, but that's what it would be. It would be an upset. It would be an upset. But
okay,
that's
so
not
obviously
to say that he hasn't said some really, really, really outlandish things.
So obviously your number one seed and probably number one overall in the tournament is Donald Trump. Is that fair to say?
Exactly, yeah, that's fair to say.
All right. Let's move on to Bracket C. Bracket C, kind of a nuanced bracket, if you will. I think you got to be really politically informed to make a good choice in Bracket C. And we know that our audience is that type of discerning audience that will be able to make the right choices here. Bracket C is all about major mayors.
Yeah, we have the smartest and best-looking audience in all of radio. That's just the
smartest, best-looking, richest, the whole thing.
So great.
So here we go. Bracket C, the mayoral buffoons. Only mayors need apply in this bracket. So in our first matchup, of course, the mayor from the People's Republic of New York City, Bill de Blasio, whatever his name is, versus the mayor of San Francisco, Ed Lee. By the way, Matt, did you know that our listener base is pretty huge in San Francisco? Shout out to all our fans behind enemy lines in San Francisco that join us. We love you guys. Keep tuning in. We stand with you in your fight. Of course, we're talking about sanctuary cities versus the overall general buffoonery of the absentee mayor.
Well, Mayor Bill de Blasio's buffoonery is policy-based. The general leftward lurch that he's trying to put together here in New York is very well documented, but there's also a personal level of buffoonery that comes in with it. The fact that he's never on time for anything. He's not even on time for funerals or memorial services. The fact that, Grayson Peachin reeks of pot. He brings a personal touch of buffoonery that I don't think the other candidates in this bracket can match, So he has that hidden edge of just both the personal buffoonery along with the policy buffoonery. And it's not even talking about the fact that his name's not actually Bill de Blasio.
He's a triple threat. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
he's
so
up
he's got an edge
against.
here.
But he's up against a mayor whose policies led to a tragedy occurring, and that's, of course, the death of Katie Steinle, and nothing has been done since in San Francisco, home of the most liberal laws in any municipality, including the People's Republic of New York City.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the problem with his candidacy, as far as I'm concerned here, is that it doesn't surprise you. San Francisco politician does something stupidly and horribly liberal. That's not a headline. That's just a Wikipedia entry. You know, what really drives the buffoonery of this is that, you know, it's a mayor thinking, hey, I got a great idea. Despite the fact that the Constitution exclusively gives the power over immigration, the power over foreign relations, and the power over how to conduct foreign relations to the executive branch, no, I'm just going to ignore those laws because I feel like it. That's chutzpah-level buffoonery.
All right, comment in the chat room coming to us is telling us that San Francisco's buffoon mayors started with Gavin Newsom, and that Lee is just riding off the coattails of that buffoon. Unfortunately, you got to deal with the buffoon in front of you.
Point. That goes to my point. Is, you know, like I said, San Francisco mayor does something stupidly liberal. It doesn't really shock us. So, you know, the fact that he had to do something that just is so, you know, illegal, unfounded, constitutionally dubious, unsafe, that tells you the level of buffoonery he has that set him apart from the normal of what we would expect from San Francisco.
And the other half of the bracket. Baltimore Mayor Stephanie Rawlings Blake versus Houston Mayor Anise Parker. You have a battle of witless wonders here, basically, Matt. The destruction, safe zones, and all that, and the war on religion, the failed war on religion in Houston.
Well, I don't subscribe to the war on religion stuff. That's just not my thing. But again, you know, men of the people that we are, there's a groundswell of support for that. The groundswell of support of, you know, of what she did, the fact that she was rebuked not just in the court, not just by the voters, but also in the courts beforehand when she tried to, you know, this is the unsung part of what no one remembers about that, is that she actually went and tried to subpoena the sermons of reverends who were supporting this. I mean, if you want to talk about an attack on church and state, if not a war on religion, you know, that takes, you know, a level of buffoonery that, you know, really stood out this year, and that's why she's in the bracket. And then on the other side, you got Baltimore Mayor Stephanie Rawlings Blake, and her buffoonery is more of the, wow, I am so in over my head right now. This city is a decaying, decrepit mass of poverty and crime, and I have no idea how to deal with it. You know, and that is what we got going on for this side of the bracket.
People in the chat room, Matt, they're looking already towards a de Blasio Rawlings Blake semifinal. Are we sleeping on Lee and Parker?
I think we might be, but if I had to pick the favorites, it would be de Blasio and Rawlings Blake. I think it really would.
Okay, and the science tells us who's the winner.
They've got bigger profiles nationally, I would say. And our national listeners would know them more.
Agreed. Now, who wins it all?
In this one, I'm going with Willie Wilhelm.
Really?
AKA
I'm going with Rawlings
Mayor
Blake.
Phil de Blasio.
Rawlings Blake was in the news for a lot bigger deal nationally for a lot longer. De Blasio is huge here. I disagree.
But here's the best part. It's not up to us. It's up to the people.
Yes, indeed. It is all about the people for Buffoon of the Year. The final bracket. We got to get through this segment a little quick. We're running a little long on time, but when you talk buffoonery, you can't set a time limit. You got to let it happen naturally. So The final bracket, my favorite bracket, by the way, probably the hardest bracket for the round of Salacious 16. The newsmakers that were ultimately buffoons. Matchup number one. My opinion, the number one seed overall, the Black Lives Matter movement